Hello again. Welcome back to the Rantin Review Pro Wrestling. It is the end of the year, so once again we are doing our Pro Wrestling 2023 year in review. It was a better year in some ways, a worse year in some ways in the world of pro wrestling and sports entertainment. Not as newsworthy as 2022, but there definitely was some newsworthy things that happened over the last 12 months. But before we get into that, and I'll let you know what my top picks were for 2023. I want to remind you guys that there are some goodies down in the description box below. It is coming up on a new year, so if you want to start off fresh and you always wanted to get involved in finances and investments, you can use some of the links down below. There's free crypto from Coinbase. All the crypto's going crazy and been going crazy for the last month, so if you want to hop in on that, check that out. There's some free stocks from Robinhood and Webull and other goodies that are available in the description box below. I appreciate it very much. It does help out the channel. But let's talk about 2023. We're going to talk about the best things that happen. And I'm going to start off with something kind of odd, the best tag teams. Now, tag team wrestling has had its ups and downs over the last 10 years. It's been popular some years. It's been pushed back some other years. 2023, it was a difficult year to kind of really at the halfway point see who the tag team of the year was going to be. Now, you did have Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens in WWE being tag champions. You've had Judgment Day as tag teams, but I can't say that the tag teams in WWE have been all that stand out, but they typically aren't in the modern era anyway. Other tag teams like Bishamon, you got some of the Bullet Club extended crew with Chris Bay and those guys over doing their thing. A team like Catch 22 over in New Japan, who I think are unsung heroes. Aussie Open are another great tag team. But the three big tag teams that are usually on this list and have been on this list the past couple of years, only one of them really had a stellar year. The Young Bucks seem to be without any kind of direction the past 12 months. And currently in AEW, we don't really know what the Young Bucks are doing or where they're going. You had, of course, unfortunately, the loss of Jay Briscoe last year, so the Briscoe brothers, they're out. And there's a third tag team in that, which would be the Usos, who split up earlier in the year. And so I can't really give it to them. So I would have to say, and this is not by default because they did some tremendous things this year, but FTR, for the series of matches that they've had this year, and a number of different matches. Of course, everybody brings up the Bullet Club Gold match on Collision, but the match with the Young Bucks, some of the other matches that they had in Mexico and earlier in the year in Japan, of course, they wrestled Bishamon at Wrestle Kingdom. They had a pretty daggone bang-up year. They were out of it most of the time. There were some times where you didn't see FTR that much. But I do think that I would agree with some of the other people that said that FTR this year, 2023, was the tag team of the year. Now, remember, these are my opinions. So if you have a different opinion, you can politely, constructively, maturely put your opinions down in the comment box below. Let me know what you guys thought was the best tag team of 2023. Moving on to, and I already did company grades, by the way. If you want to check out my company grades video, that's in a separate video on the channel. So be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you know when future videos come out. But we're going to move on to the events of the year. And now 2023, one of the things that it did a lot better than I think any prior wrestling year in recent memory has done is the number of really great events. The companies across the board may have struggled in different areas and avenues, but I think all of the major companies and even some of the companies that are your Impacts, your MLWs, your NWAs, as long as they stay away from cocaine angles. A lot of the other pay-per-views and special events that I've seen over the past year, have been pretty good. I did watch Bound for Glory. I thought that was pretty good. I did see a couple of the NWA pay-per-views, the Crockett Cup stuff that I saw. I thought I was back as a young kid. Just the aesthetic and the way that it looked. I thought that was a good event to watch. I had to watch it after the fact, unfortunately, and not live. As far as Pro Wrestling Noah, they had some tremendous events this year. The whole series of matches with Kenji Muto in his seemingly never-ending retirement tour, him taking on Shinsuke Nakamura was pretty good. They had their own N1 tournament, which was cool. I would have to say, though, if you're going to go with the big dogs, If you're going to look at what I call the big three in wrestling right now, New Japan Wrestle Kingdom was really good, really highlighted by that Will Ospreay Kenny Omega match that people are still talking about almost a year later. Forbidden Door was another great show. WrestleMania over in WWE was a great show. That Puerto Rico Black Backlash from WWE is probably one of the best shows of the year, without a doubt. You have All In from AEW. That, Wembley was a huge, huge event. Wrestle Dream turned out to be a better event than we thought it was going to be, even though it had less of an audience. And across the board, they've had a lot. There've been just a lot of great events. Survivor Series, you saw the return of CM Punk. It's going to be a hard pick between WrestleMania, Wrestle Kingdom, and All In, which unironically enough, are the big events now for the three big companies. I think for me as a whole, I enjoyed more of WrestleMania Night 1 and 2 than I did the other events. Up until the ending, which kind of deflated the whole thing. Wrestle Kingdom, it was an okay Wrestle Kingdom until the last three matches. Again, Ospreay and Omega, and I thought Will Ospreay, Jay White and Kazuchika Okada was better than I thought it was going to be. And All In was just consistent across the board. So it's going to be really close. I would say 1A, I'd have to put All In, and 1B, I'd have to put WrestleMania. And the only reason WrestleMania probably would have won if it was not for the deflated feeling you had when you left after Cody Rhodes lost to Roman Reigns. And we were all like, So that is if it wasn't for that, I would have put WrestleMania over All In this year. But All In, the spectacle of it, just the historic nature of it, just seeing a wrestling company not called WWE putting on an event not only of that size, but the officially highest paid attendance, although not the highest attended show, the highest paid attendance for any pro wrestling show in history. It's a monumental event, and it had some great matches on it. MJF and Adam Cole really closed that show out really well. So by a hair, All In for me wins for event of the year. And again, if you guys think differently, let your voice be heard in the comment box below. Women's wrestling, that I would have to say the biggest thing in women's wrestling this year was, strangely enough, the rise of other people looking outside of AEW and WWE for women's wrestling. Stardom got a lot of press this year. Julia was a big part of that. She was kind of the face. She kind of quietly became the face of non-mainstream women's wrestling, and she is supremely talented. I did get to see her on a number of shows this year. I would say across the board, I can't really say WWE or AEW's women's division really lit me on fire. I did like those few things I did see from Impact Wrestling women's division. I saw some of Trinity's matches I thought were really good. I think they got a good roster over there. But Impact TNA has always had probably one of the better women's rosters in North American wrestling and Western wrestling in general. But as far as female wrestler of the year, if I had to pick one, I guess I kind of have to go with Rhea Ripley. Who I think she was the biggest star of the year on the women's side, and even though her matches were not anywhere near as good as some of the other people, Sasha Banks definitely was in contention for this. I would put Julia Hart as a breakout star and not so much a wrestler of the year on the women's side. But there wasn't a lot. There wasn't that one woman. Becky Lynch came and she did a bang up job going down to NXT women, winning the women's NXT championship. But I think overall, if you're going to have to say all things considered, I think you'd have to go with Rhea Ripley for woman of the year in the world of pro wrestling and sports entertainment. And she would win both for sports entertainer of the year. I think wrestler of the year, if I'm going to look at the women's side, it's probably going to be Julia. So if for the pro wrestling side of it. On the men's side, a little bit different. Far more exposure to the men's side. And there are a number of names. Roman Reigns is still in there. I mean, let's do superstar of the year first. Sports entertainer of the year first. Roman Reigns is definitely there. MJF is definitely there. I have to say CM Punk is definitely there. That man knows how to work the wrestling audience. in many different ways. I don't know if they're all positive, but he definitely knows what he's doing. And I think some props should be given to Adam Cole, a guy who was injured most of the year, and the little bit of time he's been able to be on air, he's made an impact. Again, the bromance has been pretty cool. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Oh, man, there's a bunch of other names I could put in there. But I would say if I was going to go with a sports entertainer of the year, and this is mainly because Roman was gone for a lot of it, I have to give it to MJF in 2023. I think his combination of being just a very entertaining character and a character who transitioned from being a despicable heel into your scumbag, I think he did a great job of the transition. I was worried about it. I was worried about losing the edge that a heel MJF brought to the wrestling world, but I think he did a great job. And I think second to him would only be Christian Cage. I think you have to give Christian Cage props for the work he did this year in 2023. MJF edges him out by just a little bit. But I would, again, you guys let me know who you guys think for Sports Entertainer of the Year. Male Pro Wrestler of the Year. This is a hard one because Will Ospreay's portfolio of work is amazing. Gunther's portfolio of work in 2023 is amazing. And Bryan Danielson's portfolio of work in 2023 is pretty amazing. Hard to pick, but I'm going to say Bryan Danielson edged it out for me this year. He edged it out over Gunther, because at one point I thought Gunther was definitely probably going to be my pro wrestler of the year for in-ring wrestling. Then it was Ospreay. Then it stayed Ospreay for a while, but Danielson just the reason I'm picking Danielson is because Danielson is legitimately injured, not with one injury, with two injuries. A broken orbital socket in two places, a right arm that is basically useless. Yet this man still managed to wrestle 3 or 4 of the best matches of 2023. So, yeah, Ospreay probably had a lot more better matches in total as far as quantity. I think quality-wise, I think Gunther's matches, the ones that he did, the Chad Gable match, the triple threat match, some of the matches he had with Sheamus and Drew McIntyre and other people in WWE, even The Miz was an enjoyable match. I think Gunther is invaluable as far as the in-ring product is concerned with WWE. But yeah, I'm going to give it to Bryan Danielson in 2023. Now, as far as storyline of the year, there are a couple in there, but I think this is pretty much a WWE territory. New Japan had an interesting storyline with Okada and versus the Young Guns, and not only in New Japan but also Pro Wrestling Noah with that whole Kiyomiya thing. But the storyline didn't really have a conclusion. We thought that we were going to get something at the G1, and it never happened. So that kind of fell off the road. And there weren't. There were a lot of decent storylines in New Japan this year, but there wasn't anything that really kind of set the world on fire. We had over in AEW, of course, the Devil storyline. That's been going on for most of the year. The bromance with MJF and Adam Cole's been going on for a lot of the year. And those have been great storylines in their own right. I would say the rivalry between the Elite and the Blackpool Combat Club early in the year, that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that over in AEW. But again, like I said, WWE pretty much had the storylines this year. The continuation of the conclusion of the Sami Zayn chapter of the Bloodline storyline, that Elimination Chamber was fantastic. Cody trying to finish his story, his feud with Brock Lesnar, but it was good. It wasn't great. Gunther breaking the record for the Intercontinental Championship reign, that was a fun storyline that involved a lot of different guys coming in and coming out. And the up and down controversy with Judgment Day in 2023, that was a good storyline. But I think, hands down, even though we're far removed from it now, I think the conclusion of the Sami Zayn chapter of the Bloodline storyline and the aftermath of that, with Jey Uso breaking off and becoming main event Jey Uso, and that whole part from earlier in the year, I think absolutely is hands down storyline of the year for pro wrestling and sports entertainment across the board. Up-and-comers of the year, there were quite a few. I thought I was going to be giving this to Hook this year, but Hook has kind of fallen off. So as far as people who have greatly improved or newcomers or up-and-coming stars, you got to look at Speedball Mike Bailey, who, he stretched out beyond Impact. He was wrestling at other places. He did the best of the Super Juniors. He had that great match with Will Ospreay later in the year. Speedball Mike Bailey's been around for a long time, but I think his profile rose a lot more this year. Julia Hart in AEW, she improved greatly. Chris Statlander improved and then seemingly kind of regressed a little bit. I think she's, and I've said this before, and one person said they didn't care about this, but I think it's important. She does need to know how to cut a promo because she needs to know how to sell her matches. So her being kind of monotone is not really helping it. So she's kind of on a lower tier of that. Dominic Mysterio, how can you, Dominic Mysterio, absolutely fantastic. You got to kind of put Bad Bunny in there. Bad Bunny is a rookie, so he definitely impressed with his match of this year. I'd also say Christian Cage, this is a weird thing to say about a wrestler who's in his 50s, but I think he's in his 50s, but Christian Cage, most improved, yeah, I'd have to say, he's always been a big star. He was a huge star at Impact and TNA. He was a big star in WWE. But in AEW, it's like he has found something with this patriarchy character that I honestly think he's probably, if he's not number 1B or 1C or 1A, he's up there with the top acts in wrestling across the board right now. But if we're going to talk about most improved and biggest, newest impact, I'm going to have to go look at NXT. I'm going to go with Carmelo Hayes. Carmelo Hayes, for me, definitely is an outstanding star. That kid is going to be such a mega star in 2023. I'd be remiss, however, even though I've just said that, to not also throw in the War Dogs and particularly Gabe Kidd over in New Japan as being a breakout star in this year. But definitely, I'm going with Carmelo Hayes for 2023 as the breakout star of the year. When we get to match of the year, which is my bread and butter, which I think matters the most to me, that's what we're all here for. That's the core of what sports entertainment and pro wrestling is about, is the matches that happen in the ring. That's what acting is to film, in-ring is to pro wrestling. And when it comes to the in-ring, oh my God, there was an embarrassment of riches when it came to in-ring wrestling this year. Gunther, Sheamus, and Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania. I would also put in Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens against the Usos at Night 1 WrestleMania main event in there as well. I kind of want to put Bad Bunny and Davey Priest in there, but I don't think I will. But that was a good match, but I wouldn't say it's a great in-ring match. Ospreay against Speedball Mike Bailey. Ospreay against El Phantasmo in the G1. Ospreay against Tetsuya Naito in the G1. FTR against Bullet Club Gold. I think those matches on Collision were absolutely phenomenal. Just for pure fun's sake, I would put Kaito Kiyomiya against Kazuchika Okada because it was just a fun match to watch. As other match of the year contenders, I'm going to put Adam Cole and MJF from All In this one as well. I'm going to put Bryan Danielson and Zack Sabre Jr. from Wrestle Dream in this one as well. I got to put Roman Reigns against Sami Zayn from Elimination Chamber in this one. I got to put Roman Reigns against Jey Uso. I think that match, again, those matches suffer from the finishes, but I would put that in there, and the match with Cody in there as well. Gunther and Chad Gable, that was a sleeper match that was absolutely fantastic. There have been a lot of damn good matches this year. I'd be remiss not to mention some of the other matches. Bryan Danielson and his Iron Man match with MJF from Revolution. MJF and Kenny Omega from a couple weeks ago on TV for the record of the longest reigning AEW champion. There's so many good matches. And of course, I gotta put in Hangman Page and Swerve Strickland. That Texas Death match, that was insane. There's a lot more. I could put FTR versus Young Bucks, even though it wasn't the best match that they had. Samoa Joe and CM Punk at All In is kind of underrated, but overall, as far as the best match of the year, and this is going to be a personal bias because I was there in person and the match happened 50 feet in front of my face. And this is one of the first times in a long time that I've actually seen a match of the year in person. So I'm going to give it to Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega at Forbidden Door. Now, it could have easily been Gunther and Sheamus and Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania. It could have easily been MJF versus Danielson Iron Man match. It could have easily been the first Okada Will Ospreay match at Wrestle Kingdom. It was hard to pick one, but the only deciding factor in that for me was the fact that I got to see Ospreay and Omega in person at Forbidden Door. So if I hadn't seen it in person, I might have probably gone with the Intercontinental Championship match or the first Ospreay Omega match at Wrestle Kingdom. But again, this is my opinion. This one, I expect there's going to be a lot of discussion this year, and a lot of people are going to have a lot of different match of the years this year. In most years, it's like maybe 2 or 3 matches that people will argue about, who watched them all, will say is match of the year. This year, you've legitimately got about 5 matches that you could interchange any of them as being match of the year, and nobody really, I mean, people will complain because that's what wrestling fans do, but nobody could intellectually, honestly complain if you put MJF and Danielson's Iron Man match in there, or if you put the Usos versus Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens in there, or if you put the Hangman Swerve Strickland match in there. Nobody, honestly, no one could complain about it. But that's it for those as far as the biggest matches and storylines of the year. The one big thing is, to close this out, though, I'm going to go with the biggest news item of the year because I think this is going to be, and I usually don't do this one, but the biggest news item of the year for me, you have WWE merging and becoming part of TKO. That was a big story. Vince now completely gone from the creative side of WWE. That's a big story. Tony Khan recently talking about AEW going in a more sports-oriented direction, which people have been asking him to do that for years. That could be a big deal going forward, but how can you? There's this one's hands down. The biggest story of the year is CM Punk and AEW and the All-In fiasco. Jack Perry, Glass, allegedly threatening Tony Khan's life. Tony Khan firing him. Bryan Danielson being on one of 3 people with 2 lawyers, one from AEW, one from outside of AEW, that were the disciplinary committee that suggested that CM Punk be let go from the company. People wondering what he was going to do. And the unbelievable, triumphant, and very hypocritical return of CM Punk to WWE at Survivor Series. And where is he going? What's going to happen? That was the biggest story of the year. And in 2024, the story is going to be, and everybody's going to have their eyes on this for the next 12 months, is CM Punk going to implode? Is CM Punk going to do something that gets him kicked out of WWE? Is CM Punk going to get in a fight with somebody? Is the roster going to... all the eyes are now going to be on whether or not CM Punk, after 6 months has passed, are there going to be problems with him in WWE as there were with him in WWE 10 years ago, as there were over the last 2 years of him in AEW. That is the biggest story of the year, and it's going to be one of the biggest stories going into 2024, depending on how it turns out. We all know that. There's other stuff coming up in 2024. Obviously, New Japan Pro Wrestling having Tanahashi being president now, hopefully, and what it seems to be already from what I'm seeing from some stuff coming out of New Japan, is going to be a change in direction for them. AEW hinting at now with this media call that they have for World's End that there might be a change in direction for AEW coming in 2024. And again, WWE can continue on this run now. They've been going 2 years where they've been pretty good for what they do for sports entertainment. Now, if you don't like sports entertainment, you're not going to like WWE, but I can appreciate them when they do sports entertainment well, and they've been doing a bang-up job over the last 2 years doing their sports entertainment style of wrestling, and can that continue into 2024? These are the questions we're going to be asking in the new year. Who's going to be leaving from one company to the other? Right now, obviously, we know Ospreay's going from New Japan to AEW, but still going to be spending some time in New Japan, which is pretty cool. Is the same going to go with Kazuchika Okada? There's some contracts in WWE coming up that people are wondering about. There's some contracts in AEW coming up that people are wondering about. So we don't know. Well, all I know is that 2024, especially with the TV deal thing, I think that's going to be one of the biggest stories of the year in 2024, as well as what happens with CM Punk in WWE. I think that's all going to be the big stories so far. And they're obviously going to be stories that we're not even going to see coming. But I want to know what you guys think about this. Who is your tag team of the year? Who is your sports entertainer and pro wrestler of the year, both on the male and female side? What was your favorite event of the year? What was your favorite match of the year? What was your favorite storyline of the year? And what do you think we're going to see? Give me 3 things that you think we're going to see in 2024. And one of them should be something that's completely out of left field that you don't expect. My complete left field thing that I would not expect to happen, that I think could possibly happen in 2024. Here's a crazy thing. I think if something crazy happens, and I don't think it's going to happen, but my wild prediction would be Seth Rollins winds up in AEW. If that happens, I will pat I do not think that'll happen because he's a WWE lifer guy. But if you had to ask me for one thing that I think today would totally not happen, and if it does happen 12 months from now, I'm going to go, God, that no one saw that one coming. It would be Seth Rollins, for some reason, CM Punk, leaving WWE and going to AEW. Again, I don't think there's any chance in hell that that'll happen, but that's my wild, crazy out of the box prediction for 2024. So let me know what yours is in the comment box below. And until next time, I will see you guys here as we continue to finish up 2023 in the world of pro wrestling and sports entertainment right here on the Rantin Review Pro Wrestling. Have a good day.